All right, Sarah, I think I'm recording. Let's hope. Do I need to go on live Facebook too, or do you want me to just hit record? The Facebook thing's good too. However, there is a delay. Okay, cool. I'll just hit record then. I did do it to the cloud, so we can go through that. So today we're going to go through contracts, and I'm going to share my screen with you. If you are not able to follow along on your computer, if you're just on your phone today, that's okay. You can always come back since we're recording it, and you can start all over and just watch it from the beginning. But it is going to be helpful if you have your computer in front of you. If you could go to .loop.com and log in if you know your login, and that way, sorry, I'm still trying to admit people. If you go to .loop, then we can all go through the process together. This is not a .loop class. However, if you want to create a loop with us, I am actually going to be starting off and going from the very beginning on how to create a loop and what documents need to go into the loop. And then we are going to go over the contract itself. So if y'all have any questions whatsoever, unmute yourself, stop me, chat. I'm going to ask questions along the way just to get a little bit of feedback from you guys, and we'll go from there. So I kind of change up my contracts class every time. So if you've taken it before, it will probably be just a little bit different. The contract's still the same. I just tend to not follow the leader every single time. So I'm going to share my screen with you. I just want to share .loop. Okay, who all can see my screen? If you cannot see my screen, please let me know either in the chat box or by unmuting yourself. You all should see .loop right now. Pulled up. We good? Thumbs up. Okay. All right, so all I did was I went to loop. Hang on. I gotta change where I'm looking at people. This is just weird to me. Why am I looking at people? Oof. I'm gonna get myself smaller. Hang on just a second. Okay. Come on, Keegan. Lord have mercy. Not that difficult. Okay, so I just went to loop right here, and I am creating a new loop. You hit the plus sign in the top right-hand corner, and you hit add loop. Now for this case, I'm just going to write in here Keegan's, if I can spell my name, contract class. Is it October? October. Whew. 2020. This year's almost over. You hit enter. It's going to ask you for a template. In this case, we are going to use a finance contract loop. It is the second one down. So you are going to just go to finance contract loop. You're going to scroll down and see a little blue button at the bottom and hit continue. It's going to ask if you want to upload a picture. You don't need to upload a picture, so just hit done. And then it is going to create your loop. Okay, you simply click on your loop to enter into what we call the loop. we're going to see all these documents, contract docs. Then you're going to scroll down and see buyer docs. So the first thing is, I cannot stand that these are not in order. It drives me nuts. So I'm going to take my finance sales contract down here and I'm going to drag her up to the top. I cannot stand for her to not be in order. Then I'm going to put the inspection addendum below it and then the estimated closing statement. And then I'm just going to let these go underneath it. That is how I do it. I don't care how you do it. You do you, whatever makes you feel good, that's fine. I just always like to have the finance sales contract at the very top of the page. It's just a little bit easier to read. So I'm not going to go over any of the buyer docs with you because this is supposed to be a contract class only. However, Gina goes over all the buyer docs in her buyer class, and you can certainly go there. And I believe she probably has a class recorded as well that you can go back and watch. But these are the buyer docs. So they're going to be general information to purchaser, the RECAD form, the limited consensual dual form, exclusive buyer agency, the Keller mortgage disclosure, and the affiliated business disclosure. Can anybody unmute and tell me why they are not in the same folder as the contract docs?
Is it because they're specific to Keller Williams in our office?
Kind of, but it is more about the fact that you should have your buyer docs signed before you go under contract. So your buyer docs are always signed first when you start working with a purchaser, and then so those are the documents that you would have for the buyer specifically. And then once you go under contract, or once you go to write an offer for the purchaser, then you make another folder that says contract docs to keep up with it, because you could end up having several contract docs folders depending on how many offers they have to make on a house before they get one. But you should only ever have one buyer docs folder, because those are documents that you should have signed in the beginning before you start working with a purchaser. Make sense to everybody? Okay. All right. So one thing to note, this is just a little trick on .loop. If you go to up here where it says view details and you click view details, you scroll down, you can add all of the property information in there. I am going to just go ahead and add a property address that I just clicked active a couple minutes ago, and it's on Freedom Way in Madison. So I'm just going to go ahead and type the number and the street name, the city, the state. Be careful with the state. I clicked Alaska one time and I turned it in, and the agent never caught it either because it was just started with an A. And we got all the way almost to closing, and the lender came back and said, I don't think this house is in Alaska. It's in Alabama. Yep, you're right. You can type in the county, the MLS number, the parcel ID, and then you can come down and fill out this information. So you can say the purchase price is $240, just what the list price is. You can say earnest money amount. You can put in there what you want to put earnest money wise for your buyer. We'll talk about this in a little bit more detail in just a minute. Closing date, normal closing date is going to be anywhere between 30 to 45 days. So let's just go ahead and say November 30th, because that gives us a little bit of time. And then you scroll down. This is listing information. Don't put any of that in. You can scroll down and hit subdivision. type in that information. If you know the lot and block, you can type in that information. And then at the very bottom of the page, once you type the information in that you know, you can hit save. Now, this is not technically important on writing an offer. However, I'm going to show you what happens whenever we have those details in here. Now, I cannot put the buyer in here unless I have an email address. One important thing to know about .loop is that whenever you go to add the purchaser in here, each purchaser must have their own unique email address. If they do not have their own unique email address, then you're going to have to do an in-person signing. And if you're not sure what that is, get with me. I'll help you out, be able to show you how to do that. For this one, let me see if it'll let me do it. I'm going to say Sally Seller. I'm going to put Sally as the seller. I'm going to add person. Oh, good. And then we're going to have Betty Buyer as the buyer. We click Roll, Buyer, Add Person. Okay. Now watch what happens. I added them in. Okay. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to click on Finance Sales Contract. Click on it. And the first thing that pops up is the autofill. Use the autofill option. Okay. Make sure the Betty Buyer is listed under buyer. Sally is listed under seller. Whomever the buyer agent is, I'm just going to say me. Listing agent, you can add the person or you can just select them if you've already added them. Okay. And then make sure the address is correct, the purchase price, the earnest money, closing date, and all that information is already in there. You didn't have to type it. Now you could go through and type all of this in, but because you already added it in the details section of this loop, it is already auto-filled and auto-populated. So then you click this little button, auto-fill, and all of your information is there. You do not have to actually type it in. Now, before you do anything with this, go up here to the top button and click Save. If you do not click Save after you auto-filled and you start typing, it will erase all the autofill. Completely erase it. So, click Save after you type in the autofill information. Does anybody have any questions so far about how to do that? And again, it's not a .loop class. I just feel that it's important that everybody know how to autofill, because once you learn how to autofill in loops, it can save you lots and lots of time from having to type it all in. We good? Okay. All right, now we're going to go through the contract. This is what we're here for. There's a couple of things that you will need whenever you are writing an offer. So can anybody tell me why we call it an offer and not a contract? I'm waiting. Shell's class. Why would we call it an offer and not a contract?
It hasn't been accepted.
Thank you. It has not been accepted by all parties. So until it is signed off by all parties, it is considered an offer. So you write an offer, and then once all parties have signed and it is binding, then it is now a sales contract. All right, so there's a couple of pieces that you need for a contract, and there's a couple of pieces that you need to write an offer. Number one, obviously this form. That's pretty self-explanatory, right? You need to have a finance sales contract or a cash sales contract form. Number 2, earnest money. Can anybody tell me what earnest money is? Earnest money. Does anybody know what earnest money is? Jackie, you can unmute yourself.
Good faith money.
Good faith money. Yes. So good faith money means that the purchaser would like to purchase this property. They are putting in an offer on this property. And here is money as good faith showing that they are interested and they want to move forward with their financing into purchasing this property. Now, is earnest money required by law, per Alabama state law, in order to write an offer? Anybody know?
I don't think so.
Nope.
Yeah, but
It's not required. So you do not have to have earnest money to write an offer. However, in this market, you really don't want to write an offer without earnest money because it's probably not going to be accepted. This market that we're in right now is considered a true seller's market, and you're not going to find very many sellers that are willing to take a chance on a buyer that doesn't have earnest money to put down. The instances that I've seen with people not putting earnest money down usually means they don't have it to put down. And in a buyer's market, you can get away with a bunch of stuff. I've written contracts before with no earnest money. In a seller's market, when it's customary for the purchaser to pay their own closing cost, they're usually going over list price at some points. It's just not customary to write an offer without earnest money. However, it is not legally required to have earnest money if you are writing an offer. Also, one thing to know about earnest money. Just because you put down earnest money and your purchaser moves forward with the sale does not mean that they can just back out and give the seller earnest money to get out of the contract. That does not happen. Okay? You are signing a legal binding document. Legal binding means that legally there is recourse for both sides should one party decide to not move forward. So just make sure that everybody is aware, especially the buyer. There is this thing called buyer's remorse. If you have not been in real estate for a very long time, there is a real thing called buyer's remorse, and it happens. And you'll have a buyer that will love a house. They will go under contract, and then all of a sudden something happens. You go to home inspection, or you just wake up the next day and all of a sudden the buyer has changed their mind. They hate the house. They don't want to go back there. That is called buyer's remorse. And in a market like this, where we are having to make decisions quickly for a lot of purchasers, can mean a lot more pressure. And so sometimes you're getting offers that the buyer maybe put in an offer and wasn't expecting to get accepted. And they get accepted, and then the buyer's remorse starts kicking in. And they're like, we can't do this. Okay, I understand. However, you sign a legal binding contract. We just need to make sure that we explain to our purchasers and sellers, for that matter, that this is a legal binding document. So just giving up earnest money, or just, offering them some kind of monetary donation, I guess is what you call it, does not mean that they will let you out of the contract. Okay, so earnest money does not mean that at all. It is simply a good faith from the purchaser that they are interested in the property. Now, does anybody think that a larger sum of earnest money, say that sum was $4,000, $5,000, do you think that would make it a little harder for the purchaser to then get buyer's remorse? Possibly. Yeah. I mean, you tell me I'm about to lose $4,000, I'm gonna be going through with something. That's a lot of money to me. So just depends. Now, is it customary to do that amount of earnest money? No. Here we have very little earnest money. We have very little skin in the game. It is normal to do $500 to $1,000 on sales up to about $275. Anything over $300, I have seen a little bit more, $2,000, $3,000. When you get in the $400,000 range to $600,000 range, $4,000 to $6,000 is pretty common for earnest money. So just keep that in mind, that it is legal binding and it is a good faith. They do get it. They call it earnest money for a reason, because it is refundable. They get it back at closing. Okay, they get a credit of that $1,000 at closing. The reason we don't call it a deposit is because a deposit can be used for other things. For instance, if you have a new building, if you have a new build, if you write a contract on a new build, the builder will call it a construction deposit. That means that the money does not have to sit in the escrow account where no one can touch it. That means that they can actually use that money towards building the home. Now, $1,000 isn't going to get them very far. I mean, maybe like 5 2x4s right now. But still, they can use it as a construction deposit. So just know the difference and make sure that your purchaser knows the difference, because a lot of construction deposits are not refundable. So if you have a builder that is going to ask for $10,000 to start building the home, if it is considered a deposit, it might not be refundable. So if something happens, that purchaser could lose $10,000. Who wants to lose $10,000? Not me. I mean, that's a lot of money. Okay, so just know the difference. So we need finance sales contract, earnest money. What's the third piece that we would need in order to write an offer? What do we get from the bank?
Proof of funds.
Proof of funds, correct, or pre-approval letter. So if it's cash sale, it would be proof of funds. If it's a finance sale, then it would be a pre-approval letter. So we need those three things in order to write a contract. Now, one thing that I didn't say about earnest money is the check is made, and it has to be a check. It has to be either certified funds, cashier's check, or they can write a personal check, or they can wire the funds to our Keller Williams escrow account with a $15 wire fee. But it has to be made out to Keller Williams Realty. Do not have it made out to you. Never. That's called tainted money, and it taints yours. Okay? Tainted money is not good. I learned that little thing. Anyway, I crack myself up when I say that. Okay, so Keller Williams Realty made out earnest money. Okay, right here where it says number 1, earnest money held by selling company or blank. You put Keller Williams Realty right here. Right there. And this is, y'all, this up top is pretty self-explanatory. It's purchaser, seller, and the address. Everybody can get that, I know. The purchase price is whatever your buyer is wanting to offer for the property, right here. This is your earnest money amount of $1,000. Earnest money to be held by Keller Williams Realty. You are supposed to have the earnest money. You're supposed to have a check in hand whenever you write an offer. However, I am going to show you a little trick once we get to additional provisions. I'm going to show you a little trick on how you should write that, or how you could write that to where you don't have to have a check right then. Okay. All right. 240 Keller Williams Realty, $1,000. Right here, the contract is contingent upon purchaser obtaining approval of blank loan. Now, we have so many different types of loans in today's age. However, conventional FHA and VA are the 3 most popular. You also have rural development. You can have bank loans. You can have all kind of different loans, but they usually end up falling under a conventional category or a government-backed category, which would be the FHA, VA programs. Most of the time, you're going to see conventional or FHA or VA in our area. We do have a lot of VA. We have a lot of veterans in our area, and so you are going to see a lot of VA. Right now, I'm just going to put like we're going to do conventional loan. Okay, that's it. I forgot about the chat box. Nobody's chatted me, right? Hopefully. Okay, good. I forgot about that. Okay, so right here, if you have this in front of you, you don't have to write this down, okay? But I'm going to just go through these and tell you what's what. This is PP, which means purchase price. This is EM, which means earnest money. The third one, this is backwards to me. The third one is loan amount. So whatever the loan amount is, that's what you put right there. It should be on their pre-approval, that the loan amount. But the third line is the loan amount. The fourth line is the down payment. Now, if it's a VA loan and they're not putting any money down, what would you put there? 0, right? 0 for the down payment. If they're putting $15,000 down, then you put $15,000. However, you do not do subtraction on this form. You do not take the earnest money out of the down payment on this form. This is just a simple, this is what it is. You wait until the estimated closing statement to do any kind of subtraction, addition, multiplication, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you don't do anything on this form other than state what it is. You're stating what the earnest money is, you're stating what the down payment is, you're stating what the loan amount is. Now you might have a bunch of credits. That's fine. Leave it to the estimated closing statement to show those credits. You're just stating what it is. Do we have any questions about that? We good? All right. Purchaser agrees to apply for said loan within blank working days. It should be 3 to 5. I always put 5 working days, but it should be anywhere between 3 and 5 working days. However, they should already have a pre-approval letter, and all they have to do is submit an application for the loan. 2, settlement charges. Settlement charges are the purchaser's loan closing cost. Notice they did not say sellers. They said purchasers. The seller has their own closing costs. The seller is having to pay the real estate commission. They're having to pay half title. They're having to pay their tax proration. They have their own closing costs. This form is just talking about the purchaser's loan closing cost. So those are charges that would be associated with the purchaser getting a loan. Appraisal fee, underwriting fees, processing fees, loan origination fees, tax service fees, title fees, attorney's fees. All of those are going to be associated with the purchaser's loan closing cost. In Alabama, if you notice, I said title twice under the seller and the purchaser. In Alabama, the title insurance is split equally amongst the purchaser and the seller. So you have two policies. You have an owner's title policy and a lender's title policy. So you'll have two different things at closing. Okie dokie. Right now, I can't tell you what to put in this blank. I can't tell you. I wish I could tell you put $1,500, $4,000. I can't tell you that because each contract is different. Each purchaser is different. Their scenarios are different. I can tell you in this market that the sellers are not really agreeable to closing costs. So it says seller agrees to contribute up to blank towards the purchaser's total settlement charges. I would say 90% of the time right now, that number is zero right now in this market. Will it change? Absolutely. When will it change? Nobody knows. Probably not for a while. I don't see us going back to a buyer's market anytime soon. So as of right now, that's going to be zero. If you have a purchaser that you know they don't have a down payment and they have to have closing costs paid, I would see what you could get them approved for, because your only option at that point is to try to go over list price enough to get the seller to cover the closing cost. So if you go over list price by $5,000 and ask for $5,000 for the seller to cover, then you might have a chance, depending on how far over the other offers are at this point. It's kind of a toss-up right now, but just see, I would prepare your purchaser to have to wait, to save up money in order to do their own closing costs. Or you can see if they can get gift funds from a family member. There's different options that you can do for that. However, if they don't have any money for a down payment and they don't have any money for their own closing cost, I would say they're going to have to be in it for the long haul. They're going to have to look for a good while in order to get a seller to bite and jump on that. Just, be honest with them right now. It's really hard in this market. Any questions about that? Okay. Lord have mercy. All right, so closing in possession. Closing, 30, 40 days, something like that. Possession, it is standard in Alabama for possession to be given at closing. Sorry, y'all, I got about showings tomorrow. Okay. This is crazy. I put this house live about 10 minutes ago and well, I've been on here 10 minutes, so that's a lie. Maybe 20 minutes ago. And my phone's blowing up. So that's a good thing. That's a seller's market for you. All right, agency disclosure. Does everybody remember the RECAD form? This is a RECAD form that's basically in the contract. Okay. So you put the listing agent company. Let's just say it's Keller Williams too. Okay. And then we'll say the selling company is Keller Williams. If you have the same broker on both sides, whether it be Keller Williams Coleman, Keller Williams Huntsville, Keller Williams Birmingham, Keller Williams Madison, doesn't matter. If it's Keller Williams Realty on both sides, you're going to click this agent is acting as limited consensual dual agent. Hang on just a second. This person. My goodness, come on, people. All right. So if it was RE/MAX on the listing side and Keller Williams on the selling side, then it would be an agent of the seller and an agent of the purchaser. Does that make sense? It's just basically a RECAD. Condition of property. I want you to remember this paragraph 4A, and also paragraph 9. I'm not going to really spend a lot of time and go over them, but if you would please read them, understand them, and know what they mean. They could come up in the end. Okay? Basically, paragraph 4A is talking about the seller agrees to deliver all appliances, built-in appliances, heating, cooling, electrical, gas, plumbing, and septic in normal operating condition until title is passed or possession is given. Okay? It is the seller's responsibility to have the utilities turned on if they have been turned off and maintain the utilities through the closing. Seller to leave house, garage, yard, and outbuildings reasonably clean and free of debris. Does that say in there that the seller is going to hire a professional house cleaner? No. Why is that important? It might not be. However, if it's important to your purchaser, then you should ask for it in the additional provisions section of this contract. If they want to have the house cleaned themselves after closing, that's fine. But if they're wanting the seller to have the house professionally cleaned, then they would need to ask for that to be done. I will tell you, if you ask for that to be done, that's just one more thing that could not be on your side in a multiple offer situation. Okay? Just stating a fact. All right, lead-based paint. Lead-based paint is for anything built pre-1978. In this case, this house is not lead-based paint, so we put NA, NA, NA. However, if it was lead-based paint, we would put 10, 5, and 5. 10, 5, and 5. Okay, this lady won't leave me alone. All right. Now, this is my pet peeve. Everybody, please listen up. The next two initials are either or. It is not both. They either initial the top one or they initial the bottom one. If the home is pre-1978, meaning it has lead-based paint, possibly, okay? Meaning you have to have a lead-based paint addendum, all that stuff. They are going to initial the bottom one, but not the top one. Okay. If it is pre-1978, they initial the bottom. If it is post-1978, post meaning after 1978, we're going to remove the contingency today's date, and they initial the top one, but they do not initial the bottom one. Well, Keegan, it shows their initials right there. How am I supposed to not get them to initial it? That's a great question. I'm just going to talk to myself because y'all don't have questions. So there we go. There's their initial right there. You click on it. Then you go up here. You see where it has a pull down. You go to no one. You go over here to buyer. You go up here to the pull down and you click no one. That way, it's not even an issue. It doesn't even show up. They can initial it anyway. Does anybody have any questions about that? It is not a they initial both kind of thing. It is a top or bottom. Good? Okay. It is Keegan's pet peeve. If you send me an offer and it has both of them, I'm going to call you. And I'm going to tell you that is not the way to do it, because I know if you remove that contingency, you are not giving them that pamphlet that says protect your family from lead in your home. I know you ain't doing it. I wouldn't do it either. Okay, so it's either top or bottom. All right, now additional property inspections. Purchaser does. If your purchaser does not require a property inspection, run. Just kidding. Don't run. However, just be aware that you would need to then have them sign a form saying that you have advised them to get a home inspection and they have chosen to not do so. And they need to sign that form. Okay, you need to do an addendum or something that says that you have advised them to have a home inspection. That way, you know, what usually happens is you will realize, if you're new in real estate, you will realize that everything is always your fault as a real estate agent. Okay. So if they're going to move in their house and then a plumbing pipe burst the day after they move in, yes, it is somehow your fault as the agent. Yes, I know it's not, but it's always your fault. Okay. If they did not get a home inspection and then they moved in, the first thing that breaks is your fault. It just always happens that way. Okay. If you have advised them, if you have it in writing that says, hey, I advised you to get a home inspection and you chose not to do so, Alabama is a caveat emptor state, meaning we have no disclosures here. The only disclosure that we have to disclose is if we know that if there is a latent defect with the home or something health and safety related. That's the only time we have to disclose here. Okay. So I would suggest always putting does want a home inspection. However, there are some purchasers, especially investors. You'll get a lot of times investors don't want a home inspection. I understand that they don't want one, but if you put does not, make sure you have an additional addendum or something in writing from them stating that you have advised them to get a home inspection and they have declined. That way they cannot ever come back on you as the agent. Okay. All right, now we're going to go down. Number 9, read that paragraph very well. We had a lot of, when I first got into real estate, I had a lot of things happen, but one of the first things that happened is I had a seller take a koi pond from a listing. And he didn't just take it, he apparently just buried it along with all the koi fish that were in it. And the purchaser showed up at the final walkthrough before closing and they couldn't find the koi pond. It was gone. It was in the backyard and then it was just gone. And so I called him and asked him, and he's like, oh, well, the koi pond wasn't part of the contract, so I just buried them. Great. So now we have a buried pond in the backyard. That's just great. So I've also had issues with people taking landscaping. And you would call and say, hey, did you take your hydrangea bush that was in the front yard? And they would say, oh, yes, my mother gave me that and I didn't want to leave it. Okay, that's great. If you know me, you know my love for hydrangeas, and I would just tell you to kill them all. Okay, that's how much I love them. However, that is a no-no. You cannot do that. So read this paragraph very carefully to not only your purchasers, but if you have a listing, make sure your seller reads this. I had a girl just tell me that she was upset with me because she wanted to take the mirrors in her house because she got them on sale at Hobby Lobby. That's great. I don't really care where you got them, but you're leaving them in your house and you can go buy new $60 mirrors at Hobby Lobby. Don't care. So I always read this to my sellers in the very beginning. So then they have absolutely no excuse when they take something. So it's usually curtains that they want to take, or it's usually always the one like restoration hardware light fixture that they want to take, but they don't tell you they want to take it. They just take it down after the fact. And of course, the buyer fell in love with the restoration hardware light fixture, and the buyer shows up and it's gone. Causes issues. So just be aware of things like that that must stay. Oh my goodness. Sorry. Crazy. These people need to leave me alone. All right. One thing to know that's a gray area. TV wall mounts. You know, the big things that hold the TV on the wall? They're supposed to stay. However, some people end up taking them. So if you have a house that has a lot of TVs in it, I would ask that question of, are you planning on taking it? Because if there's holes in the wall, your buyer might not be too happy to show up at final walkthrough with big old giant holes in the wall if they don't fix it. Okay, so that is I know it says TV wall mounts in here, but that is a pretty gray area. Just, keep that in mind. Hot tubs that are not permanently installed. Hot tubs that are not permanently installed, that they're just sitting there. That does not mean they have to leave them. So if there is something like that that your purchaser is wanting to stay, please either make sure it's in additional provisions, which we have to be careful with personal property. We also have a personal property addendum that we can put those items on to stay. Okay. However, just remind your purchaser, when you go to sell a home, you are not there to actually, how do I say this without being ugly? You are not there to look at the stuff. You are there to look at the house itself. You are there to look at the floors, the wall space. We are not buying their items. Do not walk in the home and fall in love with their furniture and their items. That does not mean it's your items. You are there to buy the space, not the stuff in the space. Okay, that kind of goes back to that buyer's remorse thing. If you have a house that's really, really, really staged, really great, and then They go to final walkthrough. They love the house. Your purchaser absolutely loves the house. They go to final walkthrough and see the house empty and they hate it. It's because they fell in love with all the stuff and they didn't actually look at the house itself. It's real. Y'all will come across it one day. Okay. Now we are to my favorite part. These are additional provisions. What I am about to show you, you can certainly type in, save this offer, and use it in the future to come back to as reference to write an offer on. However, that does not mean that you must use these provisions. Okay. Number 1, home must appraise for purchase price or greater. Okay. There's a lot of controversy around this phrase right here. We are seeing more and more where agents are taking this out, especially if it's a conventional loan with a good bit of money down. We're seeing them take the appraisal contingency out of the contract. If you are going well over list price on an offer, like if the house is listed at 240 and you're going to go in at 255, and you're like, hey guys, you're going over list price, it may or it may not appraise. What do you want to do about that? If it does not appraise, they say, we want to get this house. What's our best shot? You say, you can go over, but it's a risk because you as the purchaser have to come up with the money difference if it does not appraise. So for instance, they go in at 255. The home only comes in appraisal wise at 240. We have a $15,000 gap. The lending company will only loan the loan amount. They're not loaning any more than that, okay? So the purchaser would have to come up with that extra money down payment. Okay. All right, second thing. Home warranty. Sometimes we put a home warranty in there. Sometimes we don't. If you are going to ask for a home warranty, I suggest asking for a choice home warranty, or you can put Old Republic. There's 210. There's Home Warranty of America. There's a bunch of different ones. I have been using Choice Home Warranty, and the cost is $580 for the Choice Ultimate, $580 per year. You can use whatever company you would like to use. It doesn't matter. So you could put not to exceed 600. You can go around, you can shop around for rates. Some of them are $500. The ultimate package is like $580. But like I said, you could always get one for cheaper. You could do like a $540, $560, something like that, or $580. So whoever you're going to use for home warranty, check their pricing before you write an offer, so there's not a difference on the closing statement, and write that in. So the way that you write that is seller to provide a 1-year Choice home warranty not to exceed $580. Pretty simple. What about the refrigerator? Does it always stay? No. So if your purchaser would like to ask for the refrigerator, you put refrigerator to remain at no additional value. Make sure it says at no additional value, because that way, if you don't put it in there, then the lender is going to want you to put a value to it, and it's a pain in the booty to put a value to a refrigerator that's been used.
Keegan, should they also put, like, if they see maybe there's another refrigerator in the basement or in the garage or something, should they put like the one in the kitchen, maybe the make and maybe the model number?
Yes, and they need to specify if they want one or if they want both. Like if they are asking for refrigerator in kitchen to remain, or, you can say stainless steel refrigerator in kitchen, black refrigerator in kitchen, Maytag, blah, blah, blah. Or you can say refrigerator in kitchen and refrigerator in garage to remain at no additional value. So if you're asking for both, or if you're just asking for one. So that's good. Yes, you need to put in there. Also, if there's something that's specific that your purchaser, like I had a guy one time that fell in love with a security system. Don't ask me why. But security systems are not always owned by the seller. That could end up being a property of the security system company. So if it's something like that, he wanted me to put in there that it stayed. And I'm like, I'll put it in there, but just know that it might not be theirs to give to you. Just like propane tanks. If you are selling a property that has a propane tank, you need to ask the question, does the seller own or rent the propane tank? We don't have as many propane tanks that are like buried here, but we do have a lot that are just freestanding in the counties. And that is a really good question to ask, because if they have a contract to rent the propane tank and then all of a sudden they cancel their contract because they're moving, that company could end up coming and getting that propane tank before your purchaser moves in at closing. And then there's no way to even double check that whatever's running off propane is working. So if there is a propane tank, ask, does the seller own the propane tank, or is it being rented from a company that owns it? So ask that. One other thing that you could put is closing to be held with capital title at the law office of Dowski, McCurry, Miller, and Lott Manor. Now, do you have to close with them? Absolutely not. They are our in-house attorneys. They are amazing. Have y'all ever heard the phrase, you get what you pay for? Well, I will just tell you, they're not the cheapest attorney, and they're not cheap because they're worth it. They are very good at their jobs. You will have a fantastic closing experience. However, with that being said, if I ever have a purchaser that needs some help because I know they're strapped for closing, they are usually not the ones that I go for. They're not the cheapest. Okay? There are other attorneys out there that are cheaper. Just saying. It is customary here that whomever is paying the closing cost, as far as the purchaser's closing cost to include the attorney's fees that are in there, is the one that gets to pick the closing attorney. However, you will see on some of the MLS postings that the agents will put in the comments that you must close with so-and-so attorney or so-and-so title company. Okay, just be aware of that. And ask your purchaser too. There's a lot of times purchasers will have prior closing experience, if they're not a first-time home buyer, obviously, with an attorney that they would like to go back to and use again. So make sure that you are consulting with your purchaser on that. Additional provisions could also include, washer and dryer. I don't know why you want to use somebody else's washer and dryer, but that's fine. If your purchaser wants to ask for that, you can put that in there as well. Washer and dryer to remain at no additional value. In the summertime, when the grass is growing like crazy, not necessarily right now, although it's been like 80, so it might. You can put in there that the lawn and the landscaping to be maintained through the closing of the sale. There's a lot of different provisions that you can put in there. The earnest money, going back to the earnest money. If you do not have the earnest money, if you are writing an offer and you do not have the earnest money in hand when you're writing the offer, I would like for you to put this in there, okay? Purchaser to deliver earnest money to selling office within. You can put 24 to 48 hours, depending if it's a weekend, then obviously put 48 hours, but I'll just put 48 hours. Within 48 hours of accepted contract. Now, why is that important? Because if we take a picture of the earnest money check, like if we tell our client, hey, write a check out for $1,000 to Keller Williams Realty and send me a picture of it. Okay, great. They send you a picture of it. You send it to the other agent. Y'all get under contract. You upload it to dotloop. Everything's moving forward. And then all of a sudden a week goes by and you realize you have not gotten the earnest money from your purchaser. You never got it. You have a copy of it because they sent you a picture of it and you put it in PDF and did all the techie things, but you never got it to turn it into the office. That is what we call an oh moment. Oh no. Oh no. That is not good. Okay. As soon as we get under contract, as soon as we get an earnest money check, we're supposed to deposit it with the office. So I put this in here, number one, because I don't normally have the check with me, but that also reminds me that I need to meet the purchaser to get that check from them within 48 hours of an accepted contract. You need to turn it in. They need to send it to the office. You can put 24 hours, or you can get a check the day y'all start looking for a property, take a copy of it, put it on hold in the office until you have an accepted contract, and then you can tell Stephanie to deposit it at that time. So whatever you do, do not hold earnest money. Do not put it in your drawer. Do not put it in your purse. Do not put it in your car and forget about it. Whenever you get that check in hand, take it straight to the office. I always like to get my clients to drop it off at the office. Why? Because if you know me, I do not do paper. So I don't have anything paper. If you give me paper, it's getting lost or thrown in the trash. Do I want to throw somebody's earnest money in the trash? No. Am I going to forget about it if I put it in my middle console in my car? Yes. So I always have them go straight to the office and drop it off. Only because I don't trust myself with keeping up with it. Okay. So just know that you are supposed to have that earnest money deposited within 48 hours, really 24 hours, but you're supposed to have that turned in to the office very quickly once you go under contract. Okay. So I always put that earnest money to be delivered to selling office or selling agent. You can put selling agent to selling agent within 48 hours of accepted contract. Does anybody have any questions whatsoever about any kind of contract or anything that I could possibly answer in general? I'm going to wait for the little chat boxy thingy. No. Okay, so this is contracts class. Notice we just went over the contract itself. Are there more documents than just the contract when you are dealing with contracts? Absolutely. That is why we have contracts 2. Contracts 2 is a participation class where we let you tell us what you need to know as far as, do we need to go over requests for repairs? Do we need to go over mutual releases? Do we need to go over counter offers? What do you need to know? And that is going to be on the schedule for next month. We're going to have a contracts class and a contracts 2 class. So please, 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 if you have not been to either one, I encourage you to either see the recording again, go through the contract again, go through this class again, or join in next month as well when we have it. It's very important. If you don't know how to write an offer, then you're not going to feel confident in doing your job. If y'all ever need any help as far as, there is a net sheet class. Yeah, there's a net sheet class as well. I think Gina, I can't remember if Gina teaches that. Sarah, if you're on here, if you could hit up who teaches the net sheet class. I know we have one. It's an estimated closing class. I just can't remember who teaches it. But we need that. We have to have that as well for sure. However, if y'all have any questions whatsoever when you're writing a contract itself, y'all are more than welcome to call or text me at any time. I usually answer, except for the 6 people that I did not answer during this class. I'm going to put my name and number down here in the chat box. If you need anything at all, or if you need me to look over a contract for you that you have written, you just need me to, an offer, sorry, that you have written, and you just need me to look it over before you submit it to your client to sign, I would be more than happy to look it over for you. Yes, thank you, Sarah. If you'll find out, and then when Sarah puts out the calendar every month, if there is a class that y'all don't see on the calendar that y'all would like to have or add, please, please let her know. She can talk with the group and get it added so we make sure that everybody's getting everything they need. Does anybody have any more questions before we hop off of here? I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Does anybody have any questions whatsoever? No? Okay. All right, so we're going to hop off. It is recorded. Sarah can share the recording with everybody. And then y'all look out for the calendar because we will have contracts 2 coming up. And I bet that I think the net sheet class is every month as well. We'll check on that. Sarah, if you'll check on that too with Gina, but I'm pretty sure it is Gina that actually does that. So if anybody doesn't have anything else, I'm going to end the meeting and go get my daughter ready for dance class. We good? All right, good. All right, y'all have a great day. We'll see y'all later.